Hi you guys, this is a short video on some examples of how to do prime factorization. Prime factorization is breaking down a number on its multiplication facts, and some of you might have related it to a factor tree. So I'm going to just show you a few examples, and if you're following along in McGraw-Hill, this is related to chapter 2. I believe it's lesson 1. So here we go. I'm going to start with a pretty easy one. I'm going to start with the number 8. So prime factorization wants to know all the factors that go into 8. So I'm going to highlight that word factor. A factor is a number that multiplies to that digit. And the digit I'm referring to is the one that you will get on your homework problem or test, or this example, which happens to be 8. So I want to know all the numbers that can give me an 8, okay? Here's the biggest hint, and I'm sure you've heard this before. Always try and start with the biggest one. It's going to help you. Okay, so 8. If you can relate this as a fact family, or you know your math facts, always start, again, with the biggest one. So 8. Well, I know that 8 has a multiplication problem of 8 and 1, but that doesn't give me the prime factorization. I need to go all the way up. So let's go to 7. Does 7 times anything give me 8? No. How about 6? Is 6 a factor of 8? 6 times 1 is 6. 6 times 2 is 12. Nope. How about 5? 5 times 1 is 5. 5 times 2 is 10. Nope. How about 4? 4 times 1 is 4. 4 times 2 is 8. Okay, so we're going to go with the biggest one we have. Notice, I'm going to go back. Notice I went down from 8. 8, 7, 6, 5, 4. That way we landed with the biggest one. I didn't start with 1, 2, 3. I went from the top and went down. And that's what I want you to do. 4 times what gives me 8? It was 2. 4 times 2 is 8. Okay. The important thing is once you've done this tree, these branches that are coming off, you have to factor out every number you list. So I factored out 8. Now I've created 2 numbers I need to factor out. How do you know when it's done being factored? How do you know when the factorization has completed? Well, let's look at this 2. The only factors of 2, so start at 2, is 2 times 1. And then if I go to 1, it's 1 times 2. So if you're left with that, you know that it's done and completed. I'm not going to factor out any other numbers from there. I don't need to include that 1 is a factor of 2, because 1 is a factor of every number. 1 times anything is itself. So 2 is good, and I always underline it and put a check mark because I'm going to use that in my prime factorization answer. Let's look at the 4. Well, I'm going to start at 4 and go down. Okay, does 3 go into 4? 3 times 1 is 3, 3 times 2 is 6. No. How about 2? 2 times 1 is 2, 2 times 2 is 4. So 4 factors out into a 2 times a 2. So I already knew that 2, once you get down to a 2, it's done, because the only other factors of 2 is a 1. So this 2 and this 2 are good. I don't have any other numbers to factor out. Every single one has been factored out or completed. So what you do is you take all the ones that you are left with on the bottom, the ones that you checked off, and that's going to be your answer, and you need to write them all out as a multiplication equation. So I have a 2, and I just always go left to right so I don't miss one. I have a 2 times this 2 and this 2. You can't leave any of the factored numbers out that you ended with. When I end with it, I always check it, circle it, underline it, whatever helps you. This would be the answer for the prime factorization of 8. I want to show you why this is the prime factorization by multiplying it together. So let me show you that over here. So if this was true, I would need to multiply this back together, and it should equal 8. And then if it does, we did it right. So take 2 numbers at a time and multiply them together. 2 times 2 is 4. And then bring down what's left. I just have a times 2. And 4 times 2 is 8. Yes, we did it right. Let's go ahead and do another one. If you don't know your math facts by heart, definitely when you're doing homework, if you guys have a multiplication chart in your planner or you can print one out, use it because it will help you. But prime factorization is a great way to practice your math facts. So let's go ahead and do 9. So remember, I always start at 9. It needs to factor into something, and I'm going to figure out what comes after it. So the factors of 9, so after 9 comes 8. 8 is not a factor of 9. What I mean by that is 8 times something is not going to give me a 9. 8 times 1 is 8. 8 times 2 is 16. 16 is way above 9, so it's not even a factor. 8 does not go into 9. Let's try 7. 7 times 1 is 7. 7 times 2 is 14. Not a factor. How about 6? 6 times 1 is 6. 6 times 2 is 12. Not a factor. About 5. 5 times 1 is 5. 5 times 2 is 10. Nope. How about 4? 4 times 1 is 4. 4 times 2 is 8. But 4 times 3 is 12. Doesn't go into it. How about 3? 3 times 1 is 3. 3 times 2 is 6. 3 times 3 is 9. So notice I kept going until I go over 9 or I hit 9, and I just hit 9. 3 times 3 is 9. So that means 3 times 3 is the prime factorization of 9. Now, these are both completed and are going to be a part of my answer. How do I know that? Because the only factors of 3 are 1 and itself. So 3 is a prime number. There's nothing else that goes into it besides 1. So let's write that over here as a reminder. Prime numbers. We know for sure that 3 is a prime number. Why is it important to kind of memorize your prime numbers? Because when you're working with multiplication or doing prime factorization, if you ever see a prime number and you know it's prime, it'll be easy for you to move along because prime numbers mean that the only factor it has is the number 1 and itself, such as 3. What was the one we just did last time? 2. See if you can figure out what the next one would be. Not 4, not 5, not 6, but 7. The only numbers that multiply up to a 7 are 1 and itself. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, none of those numbers multiply to anything and give me a 7. So those are prime numbers. All right, so let's go back to my 9. I know that 3s are prime, so that means it's done. And whatever numbers were checked, those have to go in your prime factorization answer. So this would be the prime factorization of 9. Let's go ahead and do another one. How about the number 10? Okay, so 10 going down. 9, nope. 8, no. 7, not 6. Let's see, 5. 5 times 1 is 5. 5 times 2 is 10. Yay! Okay, so again, why do I start at 9? Always start at the number itself and go down one by one until you find a math fact. It's going to be way easier for you as opposed to starting at 0 and 1. That's going to take too long because you're going to have to keep going up until you can't go up anymore. Way easier to just start from 10 and go down until you find a multiplication fact that gives you 10, okay? All right, so I know 2 is a prime number. What about 5? Is 5 a prime number? It is 5. 5 is prime. The only number that multiplies to give me a 5 is 1 times 5. There's nothing else. So I added 5 to our prime number list, and I don't have any other numbers that I can factor out because these are both primed. And so my prime factorization answer is a 5 times 2. All right, I'm going to go ahead and do one more, and it's going to be a little bit longer so that way we can see one of those examples. I'm going to do the number 24. You might be thinking, oh gosh, I don't know all my math facts for 24. Okay, well that's okay, go down. So after 24 is 23. Well, 23 times 2 is 46. That's way too high. So let's do 22. 22 times 2 is 44. Let's try 21. No, no, no. 20 times 2 is 40. So see how I'm going through this? 40 is way bigger than 24. So you know I need to go way down. 20, 19, 18, 17, 16. What is 16 plus 16? Oh, nope, it's 32. Nope, but see, I double checked just in case. But notice how close we are. So I knew that I needed to go down. I checked with 16 to see where I'm at because my goal is to hit 24. 16 times 2 is 32. So I'm a little bit closer, but I still need to go down. I need to get to 24. So 15, let's try 14. 14 times 2 is 28. Very close. I'm getting closer. How about 13? 13 times 2 is 26. Still too high. 12. 12 times 2. 12 plus 12 is 24. Okay, so notice I went from the top and went all the way down. That's the best way to find the biggest prime or the biggest factorization, the biggest math fact that will give you a 24. The biggest number that goes into it besides itself is 12. And I know that because 12 times 2 gives me 24. So now you're going to factor out what you can, unless it's primed. If it's primed, it's done. 2 is a prime number, so this one's good to go. How about my 12? Does 12 factor out? Do I have any math multiplication facts that multiply and give me a 12? I better check. 11 times 2 is 22, way too high. 10 times 2 is 20. 9 times 2 is 18. 8 times 2 is 16. 7 times 2 is 14. I'm close, but I gotta get to 12. 6 times 2 is 12. So that's a math fact for 12, 6, and 2. Okay, so again, there's another 2 that will be in my prime factorization, but can I factor out my 6? Well, start with 6 and go down. 6, 5. 5 does not go into 6. How about 4? No. How about 3? Yes, 3 times 2 is 6. So this can factor out even more to a 3 and a 2. 3 and 2 are both prime numbers, so I can check and circle. Those will go in my answers. And then I'm done. I don't have any other numbers to factor out. Don't forget to circle, check, underline, whatever helps you. All of this needs to go into your answer. So I always start on the left. I have a 3, I have a 2, and a 2. So 2 times 2 times 2 times 3. 3 times 2 times 2 times 2. Okay, if we did this right, I multiply all this back together, it should give me 24. So let's see if we did it right. 3 times 2 is 6. 2 times 2 is 4. And 6 times 4 is 24. Yay, we did it right. All right, you guys, I hope you enjoyed that prime factorization lesson. Check out my other videos if you need help.